This week, the Lion Week in Review is in Washington, D.C. for the inauguration of the 47th President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Welcome into this week's edition of Lion Week in Review. I'm Chris Stegall, live from our Washington studios today. Our panel is back in our home base studios at the Herzog Foundation. Josh Mann is our managing editor, Michael Ryan, our executive director, and Adam Wittenberg, deputy editor at The Lion. Gentlemen, welcome to all of you. It has been a fascinating first week of the Trump presidency. We are here in Washington covering the inauguration. We'll get into more of that in detail, but I guess let's start with some of the things that you guys have been writing at readlion.com. Adam, the Trump speech on Inauguration Day and the events that we were here to cover. Your reaction?
Yeah, I thought it was great, and I'm assuming many of you watched, or if you haven't, go back and you can watch Trump's speech. A couple things to point out. It was actually twice as long as his first inaugural speech, but it didn't feel like that. It didn't drag on. He kept it moving, and he was very focused. And I think what I appreciated is maybe the first time he got in office, he didn't want to overstate things because he kind of didn't know what he was getting into. But he maybe spoke general principles or ideals. But this time, complete opposite. We're going to overturn this. We're going to unleash this. We're going to do this. He came in with a plan, very focused, and it was very enjoyable to hear him be that specific.
Michael, your takeaway from the Trump inaugural speech?
Well, I thought it was very interesting, Chris. It was quite irreverent in that he was pretty much indicting some of the folks that he is succeeding who were just feet away. So that was very interesting. I'm a big believer in reverence, and I love the pomp and circumstance of the whole inauguration. But I couldn't help admiring the irreverence that he showed in doing what he did. Now, it's not the speech that I would have written, but I can't put myself in the place of somebody like Trump who has gone through things that nobody in U.S. history has gone through.
Yeah, Josh, that's an interesting point Michael makes. People said it wasn't particularly deferential. It was too, it attacked his predecessors. But when you consider his home's been raided, he's been the subject of a lot of lawfare. He was nearly murdered. I don't know that I wouldn't have been. I don't know that I could have been as restrained as he was, quite frankly. Your reaction, Josh?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. The New York Times had a headline that suggested Trump's inaugural speech painted a grim picture of America, but I kind of felt the opposite, that actually it's a very optimistic picture, but it's optimistic looking forward, and of course it was pessimistic looking back at the Biden administration. As Michael said, it did border on irreverent in that sense. But I think it's an administration hitting the ground running. He's not waiting around. He's not pulling punches. It's his last term. He's getting older. I think he's ready to really get things done this time around.
Yeah, in fact, let's go into that next, Josh, if we could stay with you for a minute, because you've written at readlion.com about some of these executive orders. There have been a flurry of them in just the last days as we record this show.
It's such a flurry that I'm not even sure the exact number. I was looking, and they just keep coming, which is great in terms of getting things done. But a few of the highlights: federal hire freeze. He's also forcing federal employees to get back to the office. No more remote work. Another executive order to review the weaponization of government from the previous administration. This was a major news item that we reported on multiple times last year. He withdrew the United States from the Paris Climate Accord. He revoked Biden's electric vehicle mandate. He terminated birthright citizenship for children of illegal immigrants, which we might talk about again here. And he declared the federal government recognizes only two sexes, male and female. He directed federal agencies to disband DEI offices. I'm just scratching the surface.
Yeah. Adam, I wonder your reaction to these. Any of them stand out in particular? He's clearly fulfilling what he believes are mandates from the voters in these actions.
Yeah, Chris, well, what stands out to me is it's kind of like Candyland, or like a second Christmas for conservatives. All the things that folks have been upset about, like the whole gender thing and DEI and all these crazy policies that we've had to endure in the past 4 years, are getting pushed back or revoked. Now, there is a little bit of caution. Just because Trump has signed these doesn't mean there isn't still opposition. and he's already being taken to court over birthright citizenship. And so I think there's a caution, there's a celebration, but also a caution for conservatives. It's good and energizing to see, but don't think the battle's done or that the left is just going to roll over and take all of this.
Michael, one of the more important and significant issues to come out of this week for many Americans, including those that were jailed and in many cases for a very, very long time and their lives upended over the events of January 6th, 2021. You wrote an interesting piece at readline.com. I commend it to people. You say there's still a lot about that day we may never know, even though most of them have been pardoned today.
Yeah, Chris, this really is a tale of two countries right now. We really are living in separate realities. Of course, there's the official government narrative of insurrection, and then there's the J6ers and supporters' view that they were political prisoners thrown into basically gulags. I talked with one J6er, Leslie Gray, last week, pursuant to that column. She admits to having been boisterous and even belligerent at times during the January 6th event. That's hardly a crime. But she was facing 28 years in a federal prison. With that gun to the head, she took a plea and served a little less than a year. But she was actually told by a friend that she and all her J6 co-defendants should have been shot in the head, literally. Now, as for the blanket pardons that Trump has issued, that has drawn criticism for being so indiscriminate, and I think that's a valid concern. However, when you look at the pardons that President Biden issued for his family, for the J6 committee and others, it's hard to complain about any blanket pardons. And the other difference is Trump's pardons were post-charging conviction and incarceration, whereas Biden's pardons were preemptive.
Josh, the pardons, as Michael said, got a lot of people upset, particularly on the left, but it bears repeating that the George Floyd protests, there's been so much destruction, so many attacks on citizens and police over the years, the burning of St. Paul's Episcopal Church in Washington, D.C. Virtually none of those people were punished, and certainly not to the level of the J6ers.
Yeah, I think there's a larger story here about the politicization of the courts and lawfare and how we prosecute crimes, what we consider to be heinous crimes. And there's a real double standard, it seems like, at times. And so I think it's good that we're thinking about these things and that we compare and contrast the pardons that Trump has issued versus the ones that Biden has. And I think it is really concerning, this idea of preemptive pardons. I remember there's sort of this, it's kind of a Christian kid quandary, you know, when you're a kid and you go to VBS and you think, well, maybe I could just ask God to forgive me for all the sins I'll ever commit. Hey, Biden thought so too, I guess.
Adam, the thing a lot of Trump voters specifically are hoping for, that Make America Great Again, America First policy. Trump hit the ground on the World Economic Forum. He's hit the ground on the World Health Organization. You've written about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very interesting timing because the day that Trump took office was also the kickoff of 5 days of meetings in Davos, Switzerland, the World Economic Forum. And don't underestimate the power of these folks. They tend to gather the world leaders from the most powerful nations, titans of industry, bankers, finance, innovation, and they've been gathering for decades now. And they kind of set the world agenda. A lot of it revolves around climate change and making policy decisions, trying to unify into global citizenry. Now, Trump clashed heads with these folks during his first term because they were trying to get him, come on, just go along with our agenda. And he would say, no, America first. No, America first. Well, now he's back, and he's already having an effect on these meetings. I think the reporting I saw said they've kind of dialed down some of the climate agenda because Trump's pulling out of the climate accords. They're going to focus more on economics. That's very important to Trump. I don't think they're going away. I don't think the WEF is rolling over because Trump's in office, but it is interesting to see that they are having to shift things because of the new stature and viewpoint of America.
Michael, also this week, the National Prayer Services. It was led by an Episcopal bishop, a woman who is known to be active in left-wing politics. She took the opportunity to scold President Trump and Vice President Vance said many illegal aliens are frightened. Their children are frightened. Trans and gay children are frightened. And she said with a very soft delivery that she hoped that Donald Trump would consider those frightened individuals. What about the mass deportations, Tom Hallman, and this message from this bishop?
Well, I think they've been very clear that the deportations, especially at the beginning, are going to be for known criminals and convicted criminals. And so I think, her sermon, so-called, was very inappropriate in terms of, taking one political side. It's really not the job of a pastor to take a political side. Now, that she can have her own views, but in an event like this, it should have been nonpartisan. It should have been respectful of the fact that there's a lot of people on the other side who disagree with her.
Panel, thank you. When we get back, while we're here in Washington, D.C., and while the events of the inauguration were going on inside the Capitol Rotunda, we decided to hit the mall and talk with all the people that had come from all over, literally all over the world, to see the event. They didn't ultimately get to see the swearing in. We all watched it on television together, but many people gathered outside of the mall in frigid cold conditions to express their support for Donald Trump. We walked about the mall and interviewed some folks there about this coming Trump term, why they gathered in Washington, D.C., and I think you will see that this was an ebullient, interesting crowd, despite the cold, despite the change in the circumstances moving it indoors. And we'll have that for you when the Lion Week in Review returns. Welcome back to the Lion Week in Review. We are in Washington, D.C. for the inauguration of Donald Trump. We hit the mall to talk with folks in attendance, ask them why they're here. We met a lot of different people from literally around the world who came to be a part of today's event. So we're here in front of the Capitol where lots of people have been gathered. And sir, your name?
Greg Donovan from Hollywood.
Hollywood, California. First of all, how are things in Southern California right now?
It's starting to get better. They're containing the fires and smoke. There's not that much smoke in the air.
Now, why are you here? You came all the way from Southern California.
Yeah, to honor the president. The golden age of America has arrived.
Are you, you're obviously a Trump voter, but you're probably alone in Southern California.
Well, there's a hidden minority, but it's becoming a majority little by little.
And why'd you make this trip today?
I had to come. To me, this is bigger than the Super Bowl, the Oscars, the Olympics, even Taylor Swift all put together. So,
are you disappointed that we don't have an outdoor event today?
Yeah, I am kind of, but whatever it takes, you got to be here. Welcome the president.
What is your hope for this administration?
Prosperity, goodwill, peace on earth.
And if you had one wish of this administration, first thing you'd do, if it were up to you, if you were president day one, what would you like to see Trump do?
The border.
The border.
Seal it up. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Very nice to meet you. So, sir, where do you come from?
Ukraine.
Ukraine. And is this your first trip to the United States?
No. It's I actually was to the last inauguration in 2016, so it's a great thing to come back and celebrate.
So what does Donald Trump's inauguration, his presidency, what does it mean to you?
Oh, it's a lot, because it's a change of times. I mean, because all the trouble we had in the Ukraine was linked to previous administration, so it's a big hope coming back, and then we really hope for a change for good.
For Americans watching and listening, what should we know about what's going on in Ukraine right now?
It's a hard time, as you know, and we are willing to find peace, and which is not possible without the support of the United States, and we are really hope for the President Trump and all the people of the United States to support us and to finally reach the better times. I mean, to make people feel safe and because we lost so many lives there, as you know.
That's what I hear. It's thousands of lives.
Yeah. They say probably 100,000 people died. It's terrible in the middle of the 21st century in Europe. So that's why we are looking for support here, and it's very probable that the war will be end soon with this.
Are the Ukrainian people supportive of your president, Zelensky?
Oh yeah, I mean they support efforts to peace, and it seems that Zelensky is willing to find a a peace soon, and we hope so. I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, but the main thing is to stop people dying and struggling, and it's mostly the aim of the people now.
Well, thank you for talking with us, sir. So we're here with a Canadian, our first Canadian. We spoke with a gentleman from Ukraine earlier. You're our first Canadian. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Did you just come to town from Canada?
Yeah, we arrived yesterday by car.
Okay, now this is great to talk with you because one of the things Donald Trump made so much news with just a few weeks ago was he'd like to make Canada the 51st state.
Exactly. Well, I see it as a way of putting pressure on our Prime Minister to change his policies and the government too, because the Prime Minister has been there for 8 or 9 years almost, and he damaged so much the relation between Canada and the United States, and also Canada's policy. So we are hoping that the pressure that Mr. Trump is putting will bring a change too in Canada.
There is obviously an abundance of security here in front of the Capitol and around the White House. You'll see area closed, and for miles in every direction on every block, this fencing, some half this height, some much taller, and at the end of every street and almost every intersection for blocks and blocks, dump trucks, police, what appear to be military vehicles, and helicopters circling overhead. Of course, they moved the inauguration from the outside of the Capitol inside of the rotunda. Only members of Congress will be attending it. Then Trump will make his way to the Capital One Arena, where several of his supporters who came to see him outside will see him inside for a second rally today. So, Malene, you're media out of Houston, you say?
Yeah, I'm media art. I got my bachelor in media art.
And what are you here covering today? The inauguration?
Here, I'm here by myself. I just flew because it's my president won, so I came here to, feel the spirit of winning.
You voted for Donald Trump?
I voted for him.
Yes. And do you originally come from Houston?
No, originally I'm from Cameroon, Central Africa.
Cameroon.
Yeah.
What should people know about Cameroon and Central Africa here in the United States?
Cameroon is Africa in miniature. How you say it? Africa miniature in French? I don't know how to say this. Miniature in Africa.
Small.
Yes, small. Like Africa, the whole Africa, it can be resumed to Cameroon. So that's why we call my country Cameroon. So Africa miniature.
Are people in Cameroon, are they concerned about
Africa? You can find out the people in Cameroon.
Are they concerned about this election? Were they paying attention in Cameroon to this election?
Yep, because it will determine the future of our country. Trump don't like a dictator. Those people that stay in the country at the head of the country for so long.
Yes.
And in Cameroon, we have a man that stayed there for like almost 40 years. We are tired to see him. I was born, he was there. So until today, he's still there. You can't do that to people. The country is going so bad. So I know things will change, but it's not truly my concern, because Trump politics is for America first. So every president should work for his country and people.
Why did you vote for Donald Trump?
I vote for Donald Trump because he's from America. He said America come first. So he's for his people. And I like that. Yeah. So he's here to work for America. So he showed to every president that you should work for your people. And you don't have to expect him to go work for the world. No, he worked for his people. We are here suffering. I'm U.S. citizen. I've been 20 years here in America. So I have my children here. I want a good future for them. And he's here working for American people, for the country, make us safe. Who won't like that? Me, I like that.
You came here legally, the right way.
Legally, I want my green card, diversified visa that they do the lottery. Yeah, the green card. They call it green card.
You live in Texas. Does our open southern border upset you?
We are suffering over there. We are suffering over there because of the illegal the open border that this actual administration did, and a lot of raping, rape and kidnapping. Is a lot of Amber Alert over there, like crazy, every minute, every second. So we need the safety over there in Texas. We need it. We really need. So that's why President Trump is welcome. I'm telling you,
It is very, very
People
good.
don't know, but you should come to Texas and El Paso and all those to see what's really going on there. You will see. You will pray God to allow him to come and do the job. But people are here just talking. Oh, we love him, illegal thing, but they don't know the reality.
Yes.
So he needs to come and do the job.
Very nice to meet you.
My name is Rotem. I'm from originally I'm from Israel. Today I'm living in New York. I'm here been 6 months, something like that, for study at NYU. Yeah.
You've been following, obviously, closely then what's going on in Israel.
Yeah, of course. I'm following. I'm part of that. For more than 1 year. This is horrible situation. The war have stopped. The hostage have to back home immediately, and I'm here to support and appreciate Trump, all of his activity, all of his team activities for Israel. Continue to do that, and yeah.
There was a release of some hostages just a few days ago.
Yesterday, actually, Doron, Emily, and Rami back home, and we hope that all the hostage, 90 other hostage back home soon as possible, and yeah.
Do you believe that happened because Donald Trump was elected?
Definitely, yeah. Definitely, yes. Trump promised us on election day all the hostage back home, and 1 day before he's sitting in the White House, they 3 of them back home. So I'm here to appreciate
Do you believe peace can be achieved under Donald Trump in your region?
Donald Trump can do, I think, everything.
The Abraham Accords were struck before he left, and very close Saudi Arabia and others were about to do trade with Israel, and then...
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Donald Trump has a good relationship with Israel. Everyone's know that,
yes.
And that's have to continue. And I don't know if peace with around us can be realistic, but Donald Trump can do a lot of things for Israel, and we support him.
So we saw the flag, Hawaii for Trump. Are you from Hawaii?
Yes, from Hawaii.
Ooh, this is quite a change in temperature.
Yes, exactly.
Hawaii is not known as a red state.
Yes, it's going there. The cost of living in Hawaii, you don't get the help, from the local government or the federal government. Prices have gone up, wages have stayed the same. And people don't just want some change. And before, when Donald Trump was in office before, gas prices are low. People can put a savings away, maybe take a vacation, And now it's just everybody's pinching pennies.
So there you have it. It was an eclectic mix of folks that we spoke to here on the mall. And despite the fact that the cold and maybe security had something to do with the events being inside, it did not dampen the spirits of virtually anyone we spoke to here celebrating the inauguration of Donald Trump. Welcome back to the Lion Week in Review. Well, panel, that was a fun opportunity for me, I will say, to get out there in the cold, Josh, and talk with people. I was actually struck at the number of people, not American citizens, who'd made the trek. What was your reaction?
I thought the same thing. I was really interested to hear from an immigrant to this country who is a citizen who was reacting, and it reminds me of my colleague Michael's a couple of pieces he's written about Cuban Americans, children of immigrants or immigrants themselves, and the perspective that people who've immigrated here have, especially the number that we've spoken with, are pro-Trump. They're pro-legal immigration. In fact, Donald Trump, when he signed the executive order about birthright citizenship, was welcoming legal immigrants. Of course, he's married to one. And so I was interested by that perspective, and just to find folks who are, you spoke with somebody from Hollywood who said there's a growing number of folks there who are Trump supporters. He kind of implied that they're kind of a silent majority or becoming one. He traveled all this way to stand in these freezing temperatures. And so the enthusiasm of these folks was interesting to me, and also their various backgrounds.
So, panel, before we wrap up, we always like to ask your favorite stories that you would call those who are listening and watching the show, what you'd call their attention to. Adam, we start with you, your favorite this week.
Yeah, I'd actually want to call attention to an op-ed piece I wrote about Mark Zuckerberg. Now, he's been in the news recently for doing some pretty interesting turns at Facebook, getting more conservative, getting rid of fact checkers and some woke policies there, which is encouraging. But I took a look back. He gave a $100 million gift to the Newark, New Jersey public schools in 2010. And it had mixed results. It was part of a larger reform effort. But overall, it did bring a measure of school choice there through charter schools, which are producing better results. And so he was panned by some critics, and anyone that fights school choice would say, oh, it didn't work like it was intended. But there are undeniable results and some undeniable success even today from that move. And so overall, it affirms school choice works and people need options.
Michael, your favorite?
My favorite story of the week is the story of the J6ers, but not just the stories we've heard, more importantly, the stories we haven't heard. I've been listening in on some of the J6er information sessions on X, on the Spaces platform on X, and there are a lot of stories we haven't heard yet, and there are a lot of questions unanswered. Was this really a setup? What really happened? Are they really this bad? What did they go through? And what do they need to go through now? And does the punishment really fit the crime? We need to approach these stories with an open mind.
And Josh, sorry to rush you, but your favorite this week?
Yeah, the Ohio State Buckeyes beat the Notre Dame Fighting Irish in the college football national championship. Here's what losing quarterback Riley Leonard had to say. I'm happy to see godly men come out on top no matter what the circumstance is. I'm very happy to praise Jesus in the lowest of lows. I think that both quarterbacks actually praised Jesus in the wake of the result.
Panel, thank you. Been a great week here in Washington, D.C. Thanks a lot for tuning into the Lion Week in Review. Make sure you catch all of our stories at readlion.com each and every week. We close today's show with some sound from Donald Trump's inaugural speech. Thanks for watching and listening. See you next time.
My recent election is a mandate to completely and totally reverse a horrible betrayal and all of these many betrayals that have taken place, and to give the people back their faith, their wealth, their democracy, and indeed their freedom. From this moment on, America's decline is over.